Why would I do this? I would not court and date her now.
Staff, listen up. Because what I am about to tell you is the one money scam Robyn never to be made public. On the outside, it seemed like security, a cushion, a lifeline, even protection for the future. But it was a trap, a web of financial deceit, so intricate that once the Browns walked into it, there was no escape. And the bitter irony. That trap didn't only safeguard Robyn. It was constructed on the backs of Mari, Janelle, and Christine. You see, while the world believed Robyn was the reserved, faithful wife who just wanted family harmony, behind the scenes, papers were being signed, accounts were being transferred, assets were being drained. All of it in the name of family stability. But here's the kicker. The same strategy Robyn believed would forever secure her dominance would ultimately come apart. Court documents, leaked bank records, and depositions now disclose the shocking about face. Because this wasn't simply a money plan. It was a chess move. And like all poor chess moves, sooner or later, the queen falls. Now, before I give you how Robyn set up this trap and how it broke all the Browns ever claimed to, do me one favor, shatter that like, so the algorithm can understand you're here for the real, not the sugar-coated. Kody and Robyn offered the camera. Subscribe, because this is only part one, never one. Okay. Let's head into the courtroom together, because once you hear how Robyn's nest egg was formed, you'll never watch Sister Wives the same way again. It all began with a promise Robyn made to Kody behind the camera, and that promise was the start of the end. It started discreetly, out of the public eye, when late at night, Kody and Robyn would whisper about what already the household was strained with extra mortgages, loans, and the facade of being one big, wonderful family. But Robyn had an idea, a vow. She informed Kody that if he had faith in her, she would create an economic model that would shelter him, safeguard her children, and secure their legacy regardless of what became of the other wives. It sounded noble, even selfless at first, but buried inside that promise was something, an exclusion. Robyn wasn't talking about Mary's security. She wasn't worried about Janelle's sacrifice or Christine's years of... No, this was about drawing a circle around herself, and Kody locking arms and leaving the others outside. The initial step was paperwork, not histrionic arguments or shouting battle. Paperwork. Robyn persuaded Kody to put some of the accounts in her name for convenience. Little things at first, hardly perceptible, intended to go unnoticed. A signature here, a joint account there, nothing that shrieked betrayal. But sources close to her claim, Robyn's words never change. This is to keep us safe. This is just a temporary measure. This way, the kids will always have something. And Kody, yearning for control, yearning for the veneer of stability, acquiesced. He didn't argue, he didn't resist. He signed where she instructed him to sign, thinking he was creating defense, when, in reality, he was stepping into a trap she had constructed. Christine eventually confessed in a private discussion that when she inquired about the money, she was dismissed. Janelle, the most pragmatic of the wives, spoke up. Where is the money going? Why is it going into accounts that I do not have access? The reply was silence, deflection, or the same excuse. Robyn is helping. And with every new month, the secret promise Robyn had made intensified. The walls of her financial stronghold climbed higher, and the rest were driven further back from the foundation they had helped. But what Robyn did not know, what no one anticipated, was that this stronghold, this delicate nest egg, would sooner rather than later reveal more than it can. For money leaves a trail, and that trail tends to lead somewhere. The vow Robyn had made was going to rebound in unforeseen ways against. The plan went rapidly once Kody entrusted Robyn with his entire trust. What started with a few signatures became a complete reorganization of the finance. Bank accounts, which had more than one name on them, were gradually transferred. Titles to property, once planned to be joint, began to show up in Robyn's name. On paper, it was neat, organized, responsible. But in real life, it was concentration of power. Robyn referred to it as consolidation. She explained to the others that it was about simplifying things, getting the family's messy money affair in order. But simplification had a cost. Control. Only a few individuals now controlled access to the accounts, and Robyn was among them. Behind the scenes, sources tell us Robyn was finicky. She documented receipts, tracked transfers, and had a system where Kody's earnings from the show went directly into accounts that she controlled. This was not an oversight. It was by design. And what of the other wives? They were issued allowance, justification, and the ongoing reminder that this is for the family. Christine saw it first. She felt the sting when her family's budget narrowed. Even as she observed new furniture furniture, new outfits, and high-end products materializing in Robyn's. Janelle, too, became suspicious when she was unable to finance the Coyote Pass project. While Robyn's costs never suffered from the same obstacle, Mary, frequently alone, remained silent, though even she hinted to friends that something didn't quite compute. What Robyn constructed was not merely a system of finance. It was a fortress. Fortifications constructed of bank papers, deeds, and contracts. And such as is any fortress, it was meant to exclude certain individuals and keep other people. The trap was simple but effective. If you controlled the flow of money, you controlled the narrative. If you controlled the assets, you controlled the future. And if you controlled Kody, you controlled the entire family. For a while, Robyn towered over her fortress, confident the walls would not be breached. She had the documents, the accounts, the clout. Kody was her protector, fending off questions, swatting aside accusations. But money has a trail. Transfers get tracked. Bank statements reveal secrets. And when the lawyers and detectives started tracing that trail, cracks in Robyn's fortress first appeared. Because the truth about a fortress constructed on secrecy, once one stone is taken away, the entire structure starts to crumble. And the first stone was on the verge of falling. For a time, Robyn's system functioned perfect. The money came in, the paperwork remained concealed, and the other wives remained in a state of confusion. But no plan is eternal, and Robyn's fortress was no exception. The first break occurred when Janelle insisted on some answer. She had invested her own savings in Coyote Pass, believing that the family was working toward a common vision. But whenever she asked for news, the tale changed. Delays, excuses, changing numbers, nothing ever tallied. When she pushed harder, she was reassured. Robyn's taking care of it. Don't worry. But Janelle was concerned. So was Christine. They began to compare notes, quietly initially. Christine observed that whereas her grocery and children's expenses budget was constricting, Robyn's family never appeared to be short of money. Holiday, new vehicle, perpetual spending. None of it meshed with what Christine and Janelle were being led to believe about the family's struggle. Then the paperwork. A document had been submitted to the county with regard to who owned the property. And for the first time, Christine noticed something disturbing. Ground she believed was still in the family name had been transferred, titled in the name of Robyn and Kody only. It was the type of error that reveals a larger trend. If this house had quietly shifted, how many others had already been hidden behind Robyn's fortress? Mary, while frequently devoted to Kody, could not disregard the rumor. Even she conceded that something wasn't quite right. I don't see the number. I don't know where the money is going, she revealed in a moment of candor. The more the wives interrogate, the more Kody defends. He snapped, dodged, and accused them of being paranoid. Yet, his fury only uncovered what he was attempting to hide. And behind him, Robyn remained silent, her silence more vociferous than words. The fortress remained intact, but the cracks were widening. And once cracks form, they spread. Because you can't conceal financial tracks forever. Not from wives who've devoted decades of their lives, and not from courts eager for explanation. Those cracks would soon burst wide open, revealing the reality behind Robyn's money trap. And when they did, the whole family unit, the image, the cohesion, the legacy, would be reduced to rubble. The question wasn't whether the fortress would fall. It was when the cracks became fractured. The instant paper and testimony started coming in. What Robyn had believed so secretly was now a part of an official record, unveiled under interrogation, and beyond spin with honey, tongued words or teeth. It began with a subpoena. Bank accounts were drawn out, transactions scrutinized, and suddenly the financial stronghold Robyn constructed wasn't a rumor among the wives. It was black and white, stamped and notary. The trail was irrefutable. One revealed that funds from the family's communal money intended to support everyone's need had been secretly transferred into a personal account bearing only Robyn's name. Another indicated that real estate bought with TLC funds had been held in the names of Robyn and Kody alone, with nothing given to the other wives except broken promises. Christine sat numb as the testimony was read. I knew something didn't feel right, she later confessed, but hearing it, seeing it in print, it was like betrayal etched in stone. Janelle, the most financially astute, was furious. She had pleaded for accounting transparency, struggled to make Coyote Pass, and then here was the evidence. Her sacrifices had been engulfed into Robyn, decades of hard work condensed into an account line she would never own. Even Mary, who normally kept out of it all, couldn't help but deny the truth anymore. She breathed softly as if to herself. So it was true. It was always. But the turning point was when the court put pressure on Kody, confronted with tough evidence. He faltered his standard, accusing the wives, changing the story, ridiculing the claims, didn't hold up under oath. He was confronted with a straightforward question. Did you knowingly permit money intended for the whole family to be funneled into Robyn Brown's controlled account? The courtroom went quiet, and for the first time, Kody's confidence. He paused, glanced at Robyn, and provided an answer that hurt. I left things to Robyn to handle, not joint. Robyn, that one admission was more than. It was verification of all the wives suspected. Proof that the setup hadn't been an accident. It was deliberate, a choice, a betrayal. And if the evidence up until then had been incriminating, the next revelation would be the punch nobody expected, because concealed in the money trail was a hidden deal Robyn believed would never see. And once it did, there was no going back. As the trial entered its second week, the tension in the courtroom was palpable. Reporters whispered in corners, cameras trained on every flicker of expression. But no one was ready for what came. Christine and Janelle's attorney, a methodical tactician by the name of Anna Sharma, clutched a file thick with documents, so incendiary it had the potential to bring down the carefully built myth Robyn had spent years crafting. She rose, her tone smooth, measured, but tinged with expectation. Your Honor, we'd like to show Exhibit 57C, she declared, setting it on the projector. These are confidential financial arrangements and private letters between the indicating a calculated to manage the family finance, isolate the wives, and aggregate wealth of private. Robyn's LLC, a murmur ran through. The air grew heavy. Kody shifted uneasily. Robyn's hand gripped the armrest of her chair as though it were a lifeline. The first report showed that Anen Fairholt, the enigmatic LLC which had been paying Mindy Jessup's wages, was merely the tip of an iceberg concealed beneath a maze of shell accounts. Robyn had established a system calculated to siphon money from Family Traditions LLC, the family joint account, straight into her personal coffer. The letter was even more condemnatory. The emails and messages between Robyn and Kody were coded language. Nest egg, reserve funds, priority family. All circumlocutions to divert funds away from Janelle and Christine. Every word read a loud cut like a knife, proof of outright dishonesty. Mindy Jessup, on the stand once again for a second day, was requested to verify these records. She nodded slowly, referencing her experiences while working at the Flagstaff home. Yes, she stated strongly. These are consistent with the transfers I witnessed, the statements I went through, and the discussions I heard. This is precisely how Robyn exerted control. The courtroom erupted with Sharma going on. Miss Jessup, yesterday you testified regarding conversations in which Kody and Robyn discussed dominating the other wives. Did you know of any understanding that further entrenched this economic isolation? Mindy paused, her gaze sharpening in intensity. Yes, there were clear understanding, notes, contracts, spreadsheets that defined precisely how money would flow, who had access to, and under what conditions money could be spent. It was never about equity. It was about control. Kody went pale. Robyn's lips quivered. The whole room bore the brunt of the betrayal. The hard calculation behind every decision they had defended for years. Family. Sharma, her voice rising. Miss Jessup, were these arrangements known to Janelle or? No, responded. They were never informed. Whenever they inquired about finance, they received evasive responses. They were made to feel ignorant or uninformed. Meanwhile, Robyn and Kody were transferring funds, opening accounts, and making decisions without any other person's knowledge. Evidence pointed to a picture that could not be denied. Robyn had constructed a money trap with exactness. She isolated the wife, managed who got money, and was the gatekeeper of the family's finance. Every transaction, every account, every gift had been precisely planned to serve one purpose, to tighten. And yet, here was the irony no one could have foreseen. The trap had worked against. Robyn had thought secrecy and compliance would protect her empire. She had not counted on one key element. The word of an insider would not keep quiet. Mindy Jessup, the nanny whistle, was deconstructing the whole system. Every fact she validated, every transfer she checked, made Robyn's cleverly orchestrated power move a public sideshow of mendacity. By day's end, the courtroom was reeling. Even the skeptics of Mindy's believability were confronted with irrefutable fact. The Browns' billion-dollar empire of secrets and manipulation was collapsing around them. And what transpired next was even more intimate emotional sabotage that would drive the Brewile parts sealed the chapter of financial lies. Part 7 delved into another sinister, the emotional domination Robyn had. The courtroom, still reeling from the money scene, prepared to face the next. Anna Sharma stood up, her eyes firm, her voice measured. Miss Jessup, we've covered the money, but there's a second type of control involved, emotional control. In the time you spent in the Brown home, did you notice patterns where the defendants controlled the emotions of the other wives or children? Mindy Jessup breathed slowly, calming herself. Yes, all the time. It was subtle but intentional. Robyn knew just how to push buttons, how to make one question, how to make one feel guilty and fearful. It was choreographed with Kody's compliance. Sharma shifted to address the jury, allowing the force of the statement to be felt. Miss Jessup, can you provide an example of this manipulation? Yes, Mindy, her tone unflinching. I recall during 2020, Christine had been attempting to organize a family get-together. Kody did not want to attend, citing worries about Janelle and her kids, but Robyn subtly supported his refusal. She would make comments such as, "We can't allow them to take advantage," or "He deserves his time with the family who honors." Each word was crafted to make the other wives feel like intruders, as if their children were inferior to Robyn's inner group. A silence descended on the courtroom. The jury wrote notes frantically, obviously entranced by the consistency's memory. Shararma continued to press. Miss Jessup, did you see any efforts to deceive the children about their parents? Mindy nodded, her face growing somber. Yes, there were periods when Kody and Robyn would cancel visits, calls, or aid, and then offer it as an example of submission or discipline. The children were tripped into not wanting to see their other parent. It was control masquerading as concern. The defense attorney, Mr. Silas Croft, leaned forward, attempting to raise doubt. Miss Jessup, can't you see that you might have misread normal parental guidance as manipulation? Mindy's eyes flared with determination. This was deliberate. Every decision, every excuse, every procrastination followed a pattern that I saw over the course of 3 years. It was deliberate. It was not parent. It was domination. Shararma switched her tactic, turning from observation to proof. She had text messages, emails, and intrafamily memos where Robyn instructed Kody on how to restrict communication between Christine and Janelle's kid and Kody himself. The words "ensure loyalty," "set bounds strictly," and "control interactions" were all put up on the projector for everyone to see. The jury leaned forward. There was no getting around the picture Mindy drew. The Browns' home had been a controlled experiment. Robyn wasn't an accomplice. She was the designer, Mindy. It wasn't about controlling money. It was controlling relationship. Kody would tell us what to do, but Robyn made us follow through by presenting it as protection, care, or unity of family. Meanwhile, the other wives were isolated, deceived, and made to feel powerless. Shararma reinforced her point. Miss Jessup, did this pattern affect Christine and Janelle? Absolutely, replied Mindy. They were frustrated, confused, and questioning themselves all the time. It wasn't frustration, it was emotional erosion. By the time they knew the truth, Robyn and Kody had built walls emotionally and financially. The courtroom was charged. Journalists scribbled wildly. Kody sat slumped, mumbling under his breath. Robyn's hands trembled, and for the first time, she didn't recall. This was not only a report of wrongdoing, but a map of manipulation, thoughtfully constructed by one who had experienced it, witnessed it, and refused to remain silent. Shararma shifted forward, her voice strong. Miss Jessup, did you find Robyn's actions to be deliberate? Guilty as charged, Mindy answered without hesitation. Every choice, every word, every money move. It was all calculated to keep her in control and to cut back on the authority of the other wives and their offspring. It was at this point that the courtroom realized that the money trap was only one layer. The more sinister, deeper layer was control of the emotion, a web Robyn had woven around her family, and it was disintegrating before their eyes. The defense's second attempt to discredit Mindy seemed weak in the face of the mountain of evidence and first-hand witness. They were not just facing fact, they were facing credibility, and Mindy's credibility was not tappable. By day's end, the jury had a good idea. The Browns' financial dishonesty was coupled with emotional manipulation, making a system of isolating, controlling, and dominating. Robyn's fiscal and emotional empire was coming apart strand by strand. And tomorrow, Part 8 would detail perhaps the most surprising turn of all, how Robyn herself created the circumstances for a devastating backfire that nobody anticipated. Own family to As the courtroom resumed the next morning, the air was thick with tension. The financial dishonesty and emotional manipulation uncovered in Part 7 had already rocked the Browns' carefully instructed FA. Now, attention would turn to the fallout from Robyn's own act. The very backfire destroyed the empire. Anna Shararma started, her steady but authoritative demeanor immediately commanding. Miss Jessup, yesterday you described Robyn's manipulation of money. Today, I wish to discuss the fallout. That is how her own tactics started to come apart. Mindy nodded. Yes, I watched it unfold before my very eyes. Her efforts to control everyone else had repercussions she couldn't anticipate. Control. Sharma displayed a timeline on the screen. Let us start with 2021. You were there when Robyn tried to divert money from the family account to Kane Fair Holding. Right. Yes, Miss Shararma, Mindy answered. I saw the transfers, the accounting, all of it. But this is the thing. The more she tried to conceal, the more trail she left behind. Statements, emails, invoices, even posts. It notes on the fridge. It was sloppy. In her attempt to control, she laid out a path that could, and did, haunt her. Shararma spoke to the jury. So, Robyn's careful planning ended up being her downfall? Mindy nodded. Exactly. Her compulsion to control all the detail, every dollar, every visitor, every conversation, made it impossible for her to cover all bases. Gaffes occurred, and those gaffes put her in the spotlight with lawyers, auditors, and ultimately the court. Sharma continued. Miss Jessup, what about emotional manipulation? How did that play a role in the meltdown? Mindy's eyes went black with remembering. She underestimated resilience. Christine and Janelle were alone, yes, but they weren't blind. They saw patterns, discrepancies, deceptions, and when they went to legal representation, all the pieces Robyn believed were safe, email, bank record, eyewitness, testimony like mine, began to make a whole picture. The very web she wove to manipulate everybody became the net that ensnared her. The courtroom buzzed. The jury leaned forward, intently listening. Kody, who had previously been a vision of confidence, would not meet the eye of anyone. Robyn clutched her rosary, her own calm unraveling in a way that had not occurred previously. Sharma went on. Miss Jessup, did you notice any conflict within Robyn and Kody as this started to come apart? Yes, replied Mindy. Kody was frantic, but Robyn was more volatile. She got controlling, demanding, and sometimes irrational. She attempted to double down, convince Kody to keep up the charade, but the fissures were already out there. Every fabrication, every manipulation, every financial trick was now suspect. Her compulsion to control blinded her to the reality she was hastening the breakdown. Sharma assented. And what did the plaintiffs, Christine and Janelle, do when they found out about the concealed accounts and manipulation? Mindy stopped, allowing the weight to set in. That is when it all came apart. Robyn attempted to spin tales, explain the evidence away, but the truth could no longer be. Email, bank statement, and personal affirmations like mine attested to a pattern of dishonesty. Her credibility began to disintegrate, and with it, Kody's defenses started crumbling too. Sharma moved to a visual presentation, screenshots in sequence, highlighted bank statements, and notated notes revealing the direct connection between Robyn's directions and the concealed money activity. Miss Jessup, did Robyn know she had no means of keeping this under wraps once the plaintiffs began to investigate? Yeah, Mindy. She was desperate. She attempted to rewrite history, gaslight anyone who challenged, even attempted to intimidate witnesses. But every step only revealed more evidence. Her empire was crumbling, and she had no strategy. Sharma appealed to the jury for impact. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the backfire. Robyn's precision planning, intended to shield her and keep others isolated, left such a paper trail of evidence that the very fabric of the Browns' home could no longer hold up under scrutiny. Her ambition, secrecy, and manipulative behavior became the architects of her own destruction. Mindy continued. It wasn't only money, emotionally as well. She had driven away everyone who might have defended. People who had been loyal once were now witness on the side of Christine and Janelle, and that included. By overextending herself, she created a battalion of truth-tellers who could confirm every falsehood and every deception. Sharma finished off the series of questions with a barbed comment. So, in attempting to gain power and control, Robyn ended up causing the downfall of her own empire. Yes, Mindy. Each choice she made in order to keep on top ended up outing her. Each thing she tried to keep hidden, and that is why the financial and emotional structures she created for herself ultimately blew up so wild. The courtroom remained in silent shock. The jury had witnessed the effects of Robyn's actions play out in technicolor. The story was evident. The master of manipulation had spun a web that ensnared her victims as well as herself. Kody's smug self-assurance was stripped away. Robyn's veneer of the dutiful, innocent sister, wife was destroyed. At last, all who had gathered could view the end game. The Browns' assiduously maintained deception was dissolving, and the individuals who had endured the most, Christine, Janelle, and their offspring, were on the brink of vindication. Sharma hunched forward. Miss Jessup, is it accurate to conclude that Robyn's manipulations, control attempts, and isolation efforts directly led to this legal accountability we are observing? Absolutely, Mindy replied, her voice firm. She built the trap, and she fell into it. The courtroom was a whisper. Cameras popped. No longer was it about rules or money. It was about the reckoning of uncontrolled power, the hubris of coercion, and the certainty of truth. Part 8 concluded in a cliffhanger. Anyone present in the courtroom was aware the worst was to come for Robyn and Kody. Part 9, the continuation would expose the emotional consequences and the final reckoning of the courtroom with the truth about their deception. A reckoning spanning decades. As the courtroom resumed on the second to last day of hearing, tension was almost palpable. The carefully crafted public image of harmony, goodness, and righteousness on the part of the Browns dangled precarious, and the public both in the courtroom and around the globe, watching via live feed. Code sense. Mindy Jessup, composed and firm, was recalled to the witness stand to testify about the emotional impact of Robyn's manipulation and the harm Robyn had caused Christine, Janelle, and their children. Anna Sharma, calculating and tactical, came forward. Miss Jessup, yesterday, we saw the fiscal and strategic misfire that was a consequence of Robyn's machination. Today, we examine the cost in human terms, the emotional damage that she created. Mindy nodded, her breath. Yes, I saw it. I saw the fear, the confusion, and the pain in Janelle and Christine's kids. I saw them being manipulated, isolated, and dismissed in their own home. And I saw Robyn willingly participate in instructing Kody, rationalizing each cruel behavior, each denial of access, each lie. It was intentional. Sharma also projected slides and home videos of the children, revealing sad, frustrated, and confused moments. Miss Jessup, can you describe what you saw about the children's relationship with Kody at the peak of these manipulations? Yes, Mindy answered, her tone firm but tinged with emotion. Kody would choose to visit, punish, or ignore the children in accordance with Robyn's advice or approval. He was never acting alone. She advised him, supported his choices, and offered rationalization. Children were withheld love, milestones, and even simple communication, and it was all couched as being for their own good. Sharma leaned forward. And how did this impact the plaintiff? Christine and Janelle emotionally. Mindy's eyes shone with recalled anger. They were tired, anxious all the time, and pushed into a place where they had to struggle for the simplest. Their protestations were couched in terms of insubordination or manipulation by Robyn and Kody. They were gaslighted, assured they were reacting too strongly or being unreasonable with the children in the middle. The courtroom was still. Even Kody and Robyn looked visibly ill at ease. Robyn's calm facade was beginning to, and what was visible beneath was a woman compelled to face the material reality of her machination. Sharma continued. Miss Jessup, can you give an example of a particular incident that shows Robyn's active role in bringing about this emotional distress? Yes, Mindy replied with measured tone. There was one point where Isabel had a follow-up doctor's appointment. Christine called Kody so he would come, as he had agreed. He declined, invoking a minor COVID-19. Afterwards, I heard Robyn telling Kody that Christine was attempting to manipulate, that the needs of the child came secondary, controlling him. She taught him how to deny visitation without appearing to be heartless, without arousing suspicion, and how to spin the story to others that Christine was being unreasonable. The jury drank in every word, seeing a chilling mix of manipulation, control, and calculated cruelty. Mindy went on. This wasn't an isolated incident. It happened over and over. Every visit, every phone call, every holiday was run through Robyn's command. She wasn't passive. She was the designer of emotional pain. Sharma then turned to the larger context. Miss Jessup, from your observation, do you think that Robyn's actions were aimed at amassing power and holding the family in line? Yes, Mindy answered firmly. It was about control, not safety, not care, not love. Every rule, every manipulation, every financial and emotional restriction served the same purpose, maintaining her place and validating Kody's power while excluding the other wives and children. The defense lawyer, Silas Croft, stood to cross-examine his normally confident heir. Miss Jessup, these are very serious charges. You are sure that Robyn meant to hurt someone? Could this be misperception on your part? A disagreement or a difference in parenting? Mindy looked at him steadily. No, Mr. Croft, I watched, I listened, and I heard them lay out their strategy clearly. I heard Robyn instruct Kody on withholding access, rationalizing emotional punishment, and ostracizing children and why. This was no misreading. This was deliberate. And the proof, the emails, texts, financials, confirm it. Croft attempted again. Miss Jessup, do you know that some of these things were done during a worldwide pandemic? Couldn't care for health account for the restrictions? Mindy shook her head. Robyn and Kody selectively enforced the rule. As I testified earlier, guests from Robyn's vetted crowd were greeted, unmasked and unencumbered, whereas the plaintiffs and their children were subjected to draconian enforcement. The rules were never centered on safety. They were centered on loyalty, control, and exclusion. The courtroom tension mounted. Sharma leaned forward for a strong closing sentence in this session. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Miss Jessup has given first-hand account of emotional manipulation. The human cost cannot be denied. Children deprived of a father's love, mothers destabilized and isolated, families destroyed under cover of protection and authority. This evidence is the link between financial deception and its emotional impact. This is the full story of Robyn and Kody's calculated strategy, and their backfire is now visible for all to see. The judge called a recess, and the court slowly cleared out. Kody sat quietly, his fists locked. Robyn refused to meet anyone's eye, her earlier confidence completely. Christine and Janelle did grasp hands, a quiet but powerful expression of strength and solid. Mindy passed by, and they shared a quick, meaningful hug, a moment of mutual validation after years and months of surviving. Outside the courtroom, cameras recorded the ripple. Sister wives, fans, and followers on social media responded in shock, disbelief, and outrage. The Browns' squeaky clean family image story was being taken apart piece by piece, and the emotional fallout was resonating far outside the walls of the courtroom. Part 9 ended with the definite knowledge that Brown's empire, founded on lies, control, and manipulation, was falling apart, not only economically, but emotionally. The last part, Part 10, would deliver the verdict, the court's recognition of the multi-layered deception, and the final vindication of Christine, Janelle, and their children. The courtroom was charged. Following days of blockbuster testimony, cross-examinations, and diligent evidence, the tension had finally snapped. Kody and Robyn sat stiff, their demeanor broken but their eyes still pleading, searching for any hint of clemency. Christine and Janelle sat poised, but their hands holding onto each other with a ferocity that had intensified since the trial began. Prepared for whatever lay ahead, the judge cleared his throat. The jury has reached a verdict. Time came to a crawl. Each breath within the courtroom felt magnified. Cameras zoomed, phones, videotaped. The world waited outside. The air itself was heavy with expectation. The foreman rose and placed the verdict in the bailiff's hand, who transferred it to the judge Stillness. And then the judge started reading. On the count of breach of fiduciary, the jury finds in favor of the plaintiff. On the count of financial misconduct and unjust enrichment, the jury finds in favor of the plaintiff. On the count of intentional infliction of emotional distress, the jury finds in favor of the plaintiff. A silence descended on the Kody's mouth dropped open. Robyn's hand went to her mouth. The plaintiff's eyes shone with Mindy Jessup let go of a breath, small triumph in her controlled face. The judge moved on to the damage. Monetary reparations would encompass not just the original investments in Kody Pass, but a percentage of all the assets redirected into K and Fairhold. Emotional damages considerable. The jury specifically referenced firsthand credible evidence of intentional cruelty, manipulation, and emotional abuse. Outside the courthouse, pandemonium broke out. Kody yelled, Robyn cried, and Christine, Janelle, and Mindy stood united, a solidarity silently drinking in the enormity of the vindication for years of sorrow and travail. But as courthouse doors were opening, a figure lingered in the background. Someone who had observed the Browns dynasty quietly from within. Someone who had never taken a stand on the witness stand. Someone who says he possesses proof that can bring down the whole family saga again. The camera cuts to a shadowy briefcase, passed over to an unnamed person. A whisper reverberates in the distance. You believe this is the end. You have no idea what comes next. And before you know it, the screen goes to black. Engagement hooks fake cliffhanger, roll out an anonymous insider or hidden proof to tease the tale isn't finished. Pause on a query that audience members must solve. What is in the briefcase? Or will this reverse everything Mindy uncovered? Imply impending chaos or a twist. Encourages likes, comment, and watch time for future video.